Welcome back, everyone. Today we got one of those Chinese UTVs. They're sold at all those power sport places everywhere, online everywhere, and they're pretty decent, but you need to know how to service them. There's not much information on it. We contacted the manufacturer. There's some conflicting information in the manual and what they said, so we're gonna go ahead and service it the way we think it should be serviced. The rear end here, the engine, and the transmission. It's 3 different sumps, but 2 different fluids. For engine oil, you want a good 10W40. This is the only one the local Wally World had, so it should work fine. The transmission fluid, we're using a 75-140 Valvoline synthetic. This is a GL5 rated. And then for the rear end, the same type of fluid, only because they didn't have any more bags of Valvoline. We just got 2 more 75-140s. That's for the rear end. And then a half bottle of Lucas with each fill up while braking in, and you should be alright. So this is the first fluid change this thing's gonna have during the break-in period, about 45 miles on the odometer, about 70 kilometers. So we're gonna drain the rear end and see how it looks. Alright, we're about to drain it. See how this thing looks. Pretty clean still. So we'll let it drain out and check for any metal. So that's the 80-90 or whatever was in there when it started. And as you can see, it does have some swirls in there. This pan was cleaned out with a rag before we used it. I mean, the metal's not terrible, but you can definitely see the wear just after about 45 miles or so. You see it in there? Swirling around back there. Just like a little trail. So that's why it's good to service these Chinese UTVs. Because sometimes they sit for a while and then the tolerances aren't that great. So hopefully by doing these services, we get a long life out of this entire powertrain package. We're gonna fill it up now with the 75, or let's see what this is. Yeah, 75-140, full synthetic. This is just off the shelf Wally World stuff. We'll fill it up until it overflows out of here. Make sure you cap everything off. Got the rear end filled up with 75-140 weight. Let it drain out a little bit from here, recapped it. Now we're just gonna leave it while we service the rest of the vehicle here, and then come back to this at the end, because some fluid's gonna level out and settle in the axle tube itself, and we want to make sure that it's right at that fill port. We're gonna move on to the oil now, which is underneath the passenger side. The oil still looks really clean. We're gonna drain it though. That's the drain plug down there. It's an 1116. It should have a screen in there as well. We'll see how it looks after it's drained. Alright, that's that little internal filter that's on there, and was pretty shocked by that. As you can see, there's metal actually down inside the cap there that holds the spring, and this thing is pretty much gummed up with metal and deposits. The little screens jacked, or the rubber boots jacked up there, so we'll try and straighten it and fix it out, and hopefully, you know, this thing gives a good service life, because as you can see, there's a lot of initial wear even after 40 miles or 45 miles or so. But we'll get it all cleaned up, let that keep draining out, and we'll check the condition of the oil once it's finished draining. Alright, this is how this one particularly came out of this engine. Just like that. We're gonna probably put this screen back up first and then get everything else back up in there. Alright, the engine oil, it's got some metal in there as well, as you can see. See it floating in there. Swirls of it. That's why it's important to stay on top of this maintenance with these little engines. Now we'll move on to the transmission fluid. That's the drain plug. We got another ball and spring there. Just keep it together, clean it. It's got a little bit of wear in there. Not too bad. The engine by far was the worst, and then the diff, and then the transmission. So good thing we're changing it early, and that's why, again, maintenance is important on these things while they're breaking in. As you can see down there, looks like we got some brass, maybe from the transmission synchros, who knows. We'll get this thing filled back up. That about wraps it up for the oil changes on this Chinese UTV. We use 10W40, about 1.5 quarts for the engine oil. 75-140 is used for the differential and the transmission on this unit. So we used about 2.5 quarts. The transmission takes just under 1 quart, so we got one of the flex bottles and just squirted it all in there. And then about 1.5 quarts into the rear end here. Pretty easy to maintain. So until next time, thanks for watching. Please subscribe.